joined by Alec Busse from thehoosier.com. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing awesome. Yesterday was a fun day. I'm a huge college football guy, and the Big Ten released their future schedules, if that's what you want to call it. We know the opponents, we know where they're at, and that was a lot of fun for me. And I think they did a very good job with the Flex Protect model. I think it's a lot of fun, and I think it made a lot of people pretty happy.
I'm going to have to say that normally, not like the NCAA. I'm not putting the Big Ten in the NCAA's bucket. But normally there's always like, are you kidding me? Or a couple of like, reallys and this and that. And nah, it looks pretty good. I'm like going, hey, that looks like a fun year. Now you have to win. That's up to the team to win, but that's a fun schedule. Now you want to talk about, you've added a home game with UCLA, and then the following year, you travel to play at USC. Where do they play? The UCLA plays in the Coliseum. Do they play in the? They don't play in the Rose Bowl, do they?
They play in the Coliseum.
No, USC.
Yeah, USC plays in the Coliseum. UCLA
okay, they play in the. They both play in the Coliseum.
No, UCLA plays in the Rose Bowl.
Okay, they play their home games in the Rose Bowl. So eventually, Indiana's going to make it to the Rose Bowl after a long hiatus, but. That's just fun to look at this schedule, though, Alec. I mean, fans have to be excited to see that. And you've got Louisville on there. And let me tell you, Louisville is going to be a tough out. Jeff Brom is Jeff Brom, and he's home. And I'm telling you, that's not a series I would be happy to see on Indiana's schedule as a fan, because that's another tough. That's like when they had Cincinnati, just got Cincinnati off. That's what Louisville is going to be like to me, having a non-con that is just tougher than nails.
Yeah, I would counter a little bit and say I think if I was an Indiana fan, that it might be more fun to be playing a school like Louisville than it would be to be playing like Furman or some other directional school. Like excitement-wise, I think that's
I agree with you. Absolutely.
And also, I would also say that I think it's a good measuring stick before a team like Indiana goes into Big Ten play. And I think that that's a good thing to kind of have before you enter conference play. And especially now when you look at what the new Big Ten is going to look like. I was in conversations on our message boards with some of our subscribers last night about, Purdue getting, I think, 2 games protected against Indiana and Illinois, and Illinois having 2 with Northwestern and Purdue, and Penn State having 0 games protected. And I think one of the reasons
who protected 0 games?
Penn State doesn't have any protected games because they don't really have any rivals, and it kind of makes sense to not have them have any protected games. They didn't want any, and that's perfectly fine in my opinion because they don't really have any.
First of all, you'd have to get another team to agree to have to play Penn State. It's like, oh yeah,
exactly.
Minnesota's not going to say, yeah, we'll play you every year. Maryland's not going to, Indiana's not going to, Purdue's not, none of these other teams. And I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Ohio State did it, but they don't need it. So yeah, Penn State, that's a great point. Penn State's in a kind of a weird position. They came into the conference. They've been in the conference for quite some time.
30 years, 92 or 93.
But it's still, you still know that they weren't one of the originals, so they don't have those built-in rivalries that you just talked about. So that's going to be – so their schedule's just going to flip-flop around, which they'll have an exciting schedule. They're going to have a rotation of USC, UCLA, Ohio State, Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin. So, wow, that's cool. They're the only team with no protected rivalries, I'm sure.
Yeah, Penn State's the only team with 0 protected rivalries, and then Iowa is the only team with 3 protected rivalries. They get Nebraska, Minnesota, and Wisconsin all protected, and I think that's a good thing. I know there's been some discourse online about, well, why does Iowa have 3? Well, that triangle of Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin is pretty historic. All 3 of those schools are protected against each other, which is kind of cool. I'm pretty sure all 3 of those games between each school are trophy games, which is pretty cool and pretty unique. So I like that as well. And then the Nebraska game is one that I've come to really enjoy on Black Friday. It's a game that the Big Ten put on Black Friday. It's a quality game on Big Ten Network generally every year. Even when Iowa's offense isn't great to watch, I greatly enjoy watching it because it's so bad. It's greatly entertaining.
Well, you think
like
to see
last
those
year.
two words, Nebraska and Iowa in football, and instantly that should be entertainment. Now,
Yeah.
Nebraska has still they've still not, since they've joined the Big Ten, they have not gotten back or even been a really good team. I think that's going to that's going to happen now. They got Matt Rule, so forgot about that. Gee whiz! So that's going to be a hell of that's a hell of a series. And their 3 games; those are great games. Now, were you allowed? How many were you allowed to protect?
You could protect up to 3 at most. So
Okay, that's what I want to make sure.
Iowa's
You
the
had
only
the
one that
option,
protected
so everybody
3.
had the option.
Yeah, I was the only one that protected 3. There's a few that have 2. Michigan State only has 1 with Michigan, but Michigan has 2 with Ohio State and Penn State. Illinois has 2 with Northwestern and Purdue. Those are quick ones off the top of my head. Like I said, I think Wisconsin might have 2 with Iowa and Minnesota. Minnesota, I guess, would have 2 with Wisconsin and Iowa. So those are quick ones off the top of my head. Those are schools that I know have at least 2. But then you've got a lot of schools that have just 1, like USC and UCLA. They only have 1. Maryland and Rutgers is just 1 each. Indiana only has the 1 with Purdue, and they don't get to protect. I shouldn't say they don't get to protect. They're not protecting the Nebraska-Batum game against Michigan State. And I know that there was some discourse about whether or not that game would be protected. I certainly understand why it would have been protected. It's a trophy game. It's a game that's been played a long time. But if you look at the history of it, it's not really a rivalry. Michigan State dominated it. And if I was a Michigan State person, I'd have been like, yeah, protect it. We want to play Indiana every year.
When did the old brass spittoon get added? Because that could be something. I don't know how long that they've been playing for the brass spittoon, but if it goes back to, the Big Ten is old, man, and it used to be the Big Ten. So these solid Midwestern schools used to have played forever. So yeah, but it's still, just because you played all of those teams, that does not create that rivalry. Purdue is the natural rivalry. But if I was Indiana, I would have tried to protect Rutgers and Maryland.
Yeah, I think they could have, but I don't think there's much of a case to protect those. I think if you wanted to protect an additional school, if you were Indiana, in my opinion,
the case is a win is the case. That's
exactly. If you're going to protect someone, I think you want to feel good about your chances to win. I think if you're Indiana, the additional school you want to protect other than Purdue might be Illinois. But
we talked about that yesterday.
You're kind of pushing there. Like, there's not really a great rivalry there on the football side of things.
Well, there's not, because they haven't played a lot
because of the East-West.
Exactly, and that's now that'll go away, and that's something that could create, and especially right now, you've got Bielema over there, and he has already made a difference. Indiana was lucky to get a win last year when Illinois came here. I mean, that was a game that went down to the end, and Indiana was lucky to hold on, but they did. And I promise you, that was a loss that stuck in his craw all year long. It made, oh man. There is that one. That one probably was the Indiana loss. Probably just graded Brett Bielema more than anything all last year, because he knew that was a game that was this close that they should have had, and it would have made a gigantic difference in their season, because they went on to win 8 straight after that or something.
Not 8 straight. They did finish 8-5. It's funny, that loss to Indiana was a good microcosm for Illinois' entire season. They lost at home against Michigan State when they were 17-point favorites. I think late in the year, they lost to Purdue at Memorial Stadium in Champaign when they probably were a team that should have won that game. And then, Jim, I don't know if you remember, they had Michigan on the ropes the second to last week of the regular season, and Michigan State had to kick essentially a game-winning field goal with less than 15, 20 seconds left. And that was a game Illinois led for much of the second half. So it was a good microcosm for the entire season. But yeah, I think that's one that Indiana probably could have tried to protect if they wanted to against Illinois, but decided not to. And I think Indiana got pretty much what they wanted. I don't know if there's another game that they really felt needed to be protected other than Purdue. And I think we're all excited that we get to continue to see Indiana-Purdue annually. And I don't think there's any question if that game was going to be protected. It's already been protected because Purdue's been in the West and Indiana's been in the East. So it was obvious that that game was going to be protected. It's one of the oldest games in the Big Ten. It's one of the most iconic trophies in the Big Ten, and certainly excited that I'm now getting a chance to cover one of the Big Ten's longer running rivalries.
Yeah, and I'd love to talk more about this, and we will next time, but I don't want to run out of time because also there's a lot of visits going on with Indiana basketball. Jaden Mustaf, is he still in, or is his visit over now?
He got on campus late last night. He will be on campus all day today, and then he will arrive back home, I believe, on Saturday.
Jaden Mustaf, another covet that Mike Woodson would definitely like to have.
Yeah, he's a really interesting prospect. I really enjoyed watching him down in Dallas a couple weeks ago. He's about 6'5", 6'6". He's someone I would kind of describe as a really big combo guard. I don't really consider him to be much of a point guard, but I also don't think that he's a shooting guard because he's still developing his 3-point shot. This summer on the EYBL circuit, he's shooting about 21% from deep, but that's really just a small look at it from his perspective. He's shooting over 47% from the floor, and he's got a good stroke from the free throw line as well, making about 82.5% there. So he's certainly someone that Indiana is tracking. He's a top 50 prospect ranked by Rivals. I know 24/7 has him a little bit higher. I think he's in the top 25 by 24/7. But I really like his game. Yeah, I really like his game. He's still developing that shot, like I said, but really big, really athletic, really excels in transition, and I like his game a lot. And I don't think that he's their number one target at that guard position in the 24 class. I think that he's probably behind Dylan Harper, someone that they're really pushing for. Duke and Rutgers also heavily in the mix for Harper. And then I also think that he maybe is a little bit behind Boogie Fland in terms of that pecking order at the guard position. And Fland's taking an official visit next week, starting the 13th or 14th. And Fland is higher ranked by Rivals. He's a little bit faster. He's smaller, though, but he's a little bit more of a pure scorer. So I'm kind of intrigued to see how Indiana handles the dynamic of the three of those and how they push for them or how they kind of wait for them. That becomes a really tough thing for a coaching staff to manage, because if you're Mike Woodson and you walk out of this weekend and Jaden Mustaf says to you, hey, I want to commit, do you accept that commitment? And that's certainly a question that Mike Woodson will have to answer in the next couple of days or potential weeks or months.
Yeah, but those guys usually don't do that, it seems.
I don't expect Mustaf to do that. He's someone in my conversations with him and people around him that I've gotten the impression that he's going to try and take visits to a couple schools. He was just on an official visit to NC State last week. He's got a top 6 that includes Maryland, Indiana, Virginia Tech, Miami, and Florida State. And he's already taken an official visit to Florida State too as of last year. So I don't get the impression that Mustaf is going to do that, but we'll see.
Yeah, you mentioned Dylan Harper. He is without question. That is a guy that Mike Woodson wants and wants badly. And I didn't think Indiana would ever have a shot at him, to be honest with you. A year ago, I'd have said they got no chance. But they have a serious chance right now. You cannot discount Rutgers. Rutgers thinks that they are solidly in place for him. And that may be the case. I've been told it's down to Duke and Indiana, because his mom wanted to keep him close. I don't buy that. I think that he's going to go. He might not even be in college long. So he's going to go to, I believe he'll go to Duke or Indiana. I don't know that for a fact, but he's a special talent, that's for certain, and a difference maker.
Yeah, he is potentially the number one ranked recruit in the 2024 class. I love watching his game. Still developing his consistency as a 3-point shooter, but he's a tough defender. He has really active hands on the defensive side, good length as well. And I really like his ability to kind of get to the basket and finish with both hands on the offensive side of things as well. To me, when I was down in Dallas, I watched a lot of Indiana's 24 kids. Dylan Harper was head and shoulders better than every other target that they are after this summer. That includes Liam McNeely, who's another top 10 recruit. I just fell in love with Dylan Harper's game. And Like you said, Duke is in the mix there. Duke's obviously a really big brand. They have a lot of success on the recruiting front. John Shire has been one of the best recruiters in the country dating back to when he was an assistant there under Coach K. But Indiana's done a really good job. I know they're pushing for an official visit at some point here. I don't think that Dylan Harper is going to try and take any visits until at least after Peach Jam, which is the first week or so of July. So we'll see if anything kind of develops and materializes for Dylan Harper after that. But yeah, Duke, Indiana, Rutgers, I would say are the three biggest schools right now for Dylan Harper. And then he obviously has loads of other schools when you're a top 5 prospect in the class.
Joey Hart is a name I've been talking about a lot. He was here on a visit, and everyone I've seen a lot of people question, has anybody offered him? Because I don't know that he has been offered by Kentucky or Indiana. So that's an interesting situation. He might have been offered by now on the visit. Usually, why would you you don't usually bring somebody in for a visit at this stage and not offer them, I would imagine. But also, how much after this upcoming season, is this Anthony Leal's junior or senior season?
I need to double check my scholarships chart on that.
Yeah,
I think he'll be a junior this upcoming season. But in relation to Joey Hart, I think that it is a fascinating situation for Indiana because he certainly fits a need in the idea that he's proven to be a really good shooter. He shot over 40% from deep this past high school season and averaged close to like 23, 24 points a game. But I don't know if he's necessarily ready to play in the Big Ten at this point. Like, he was going to go to UCF, which was an American school, and he was going to go play in the Big 12, right? Because we know the Big 12 is where UCF is starting this season, and the Big 12 has been a better conference than the Big 10 the last couple of years. So maybe he is ready, but we don't really know for a fact there. Kentucky is also getting a visit this weekend, so I'll be really intrigued to see how much Kentucky kind of pushes for Hart because he fits a need for them too. Though Kentucky has lots of needs because they have.
I was going to say, you fit a need for Kentucky. It's like Oprah. You fit a need for Kentucky. You fit a need for Kentucky.
Yes.
You fit a need for Kentucky.
I think they have 3 high school kids visiting this weekend or in the near future. Coach Cal does down there. So I will be really intrigued to see how much they push for Joey Hart. I know Texas and Rutgers have also been said to kind of be in the mix for Hart. So maybe my skepticism of if he's ready to play in the Big 10 or the Big 12 is a little bit off. I mean, if you've got Texas and Rutgers and UCF and Indiana after you, you're probably capable of playing in the Big 10, but I don't know how many minutes he would be ready to contribute. I guess as a freshman is maybe a little bit of a better way to say it about Joey Hart, but I certainly like the idea of it if I'm Indiana. I just don't know if I'm in love with the idea of it, I guess, if that makes sense.